COP, and all the other little alphabets. All of them. All, Nikolai, Michaela, all, well, no, actually, Michaela didn't show up. But all who were supposed to show up. What have you done in the last 12 months between August 10th, Carolyn C. Prasad Bechan, and the Better United crew? What have you done from the 10th of August, 2020 to 2021? I'm wearing, with pride, my Citizens Union shirt. I was going to wear a Progressive Empowerment Party shirt, but because I wanted to talk about PEP and what PEP has done, but I realized that all of us who will still continue to fight. I realized that all of us are the Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago. So speaking for myself, and today I saw a wannabe post on Facebook, and she's questioning how I managed to sign over 10,000 people to a new movement in less than a year. Because the Citizens Union was launched October, November of 2020. So that, we're not even a year of the Citizens Union yet, and we're closing in. And people are asking, and we want to publish it, but we're closing in on 11,000 members, and people doing arithmetic. She's doing arithmetic, trying to count how much money she thinks we've made. But what she should be counting is how few people take her on. And that's the point. That even with this screen that you're watching right now, with the Wi-Fi in Trinidad being the shit that it is, and all the blocking that goes on when we are live, when I am live, I get blocked. I get literally blocked. Facebook has told me that my Facebook that has 100,000 followers is limited. They've put a limit on who could like it, who could share it. This video, it is tedious for a lot of members to come on, get bumped off, trying to get on. People talk about how hard it is to get onto my videos. Some of them leave in frustration to come back the next day to watch it as a rebroadcast. I'm just trying to get some cool breeze. Because of how difficult it is. So I am running VPN. I'm telling you all this before we get into the show. 1 year later, I am running a VPN. So those of you going to suggest a VPN, I'm running a VPN right now, and it's masked and it goes through many different countries. I'm running a VPN, and I pay for Flow, B-Mobile, and Digicel. 3 internet suppliers I pay for so that I can do this live video. When they look and they say, how is this man consistently, and tonight they have to block the show. This is a big and an important show, so they're going to do everything in their power to block this show as hard as they could. Because 1 year later, 1 year later, everybody have to account for what they've done. You see, and I want to say this, it's not enough to show up at election time and pelt a stone. You're helping nobody. You're helping nobody. It's not enough. You have to be part of a development, of a conversation, of the people. You have to be taking the people somewhere. You have to have a vision. Anne-Marie Dulal posted today. Pep told you. Pep explained to you. Pep showed you. Item by item. We didn't just say, we're going to build a biscuit factory. We told you the problems with each and every industry in this country, every part of government. We had a plan for what we were doing about the local government system. We were removing the RHAs and the local government and the special purpose companies, all that bullshit. and morphing everything into something called a constituency board of supervisors. So that in Maraval and Diego Martin and Cascade, when they had a flood this week, each constituency would have a supervisor for public utilities and a supervisor for public works. And between them, they would have had to get the wrongs right in those constituencies. And I mean, we were the ones we championing referendum, we championing recall. We said our first day in office, we would enshrine into law, written in a way into the Constitution where it would be difficult to remove it, that you can. Please share the video. Please share the video now. Share it as far. Even if you're watching a rebroadcast tomorrow, share it. Share it wide. Share it wild. You see, even with the limited Facebook that I have, we get on average 1.5, 2 million views a month. And I know my haters. I know them by name. I know their words. I know what triggers them. I know what ticks them off. I see them work assiduously. Some are paid to attack me continuously. They create a whole, PNM create a whole page called UNC Cabal just to attack Phillip Alexander. PNM operating a page called UNC Cabal to attack me. I am not in any public office. I am not in local government. I am not in central government. I'm not in the House of Representatives. I'm not in the Senate. I get no state money. I don't qualify for a grant. I don't live in HTC. I don't have blue lights. Nothing. 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 Please share the video. We're struggling at 823, and by now we're supposed to be at 1,500 views. They have us stressed tonight, and they know 9 o'clock tonight. But I want to tell you, I told y'all there's a bumper video tonight. I don't mind going till midnight. So spread the word and let people know that we're here. Because tonight we're going to talk the things. We're going to talk the things that need to be talked. Why we still a shithole. Some going to get triggered by shithole and say, nah, Phil, you can't want to be Prime Minister of a shithole. I don't want to be Prime Minister of a shithole. I want to be Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and transform it from a shithole. But right now, tonight, you are in danger. Even the ones who just got their underwear in a knot that I dared to call it a shithole. People just give me all kind of advice. Call it as it is. See it as it was. Call it out in faith. All kind of bullshit. Listen, 28 years I am an activist. I have been giving to my country for 28 years. I don't need no punch word, no watchword, no toilet paper of the day affirmation. I give back because my father brought me and my brother and my sisters up that way. That's why we work. You see my brother? My brother is the foremost authority on COVID-19 right now. He could have settled his ass down. He was an advisor to the Trump White House. He's supposed to be just concentrating on making an international money. Not this small shit, small pond bullshit that Harry back and them fighting over. Big thing. Big thing. Fauci and them trillions. But my brother is giving back to the world, to Trinidad, taking all the hits and all the stick from all the Google doctors like Neil Giuseppe and Stephen Valdez and Stephen Cadiz and Ojo and all of them who ain't no one ass. They're just parroting what people telling them to parrot because you're paid to parrot or you're motivated to parrot. Whatever turning you on, whatever floating your boat. But I'm saying to you, it's 28 years I'm doing this. I look back over my 28 years and I will, listen, argue the points. Come and argue the points. It is because of Phillip Edward Alexander that handicap parking exists in Trinidad and Tobago. I created that. And I want to tell you how far I went. I went corporation by corporation and fought. Do you know we still don't have a law? Do you know there still is no law to protect those handicapped blue spaces that you see when you go to the grocery, when you go to the mall? They only exist because I fought for that. There's a children's authority in this country that's supposed to be protecting the children of Trinidad and Tobago. That authority exists because a bill that was written and was languishing for 14 years I put 50,000 people on the street year after year until we frightened the government into running to the parliament and pass the children's bill, because we insisted. Every year we had the Akil Chambers Justice for Children March. If you know Akil Chambers' name after all these decades, after he was sodomized and murdered in Highland Park, if you know Akil Chambers' name, or Amy Anamatudo, or Daniel Guerra, Sean Luke, if you know any of those names, it's because the Jericho Project exists, and that started 28 years ago. That was my first foray into activism. 28 years ago. We started on a path where we said we will make a difference to the lowest in society. And we identified the lowest on the rungs of society as the orphans, the disabled, and the homeless. And we did for all three. For the homeless, in the first 5 years, we created a movement called My Daily Soup. And we was feeding the homeless every single day. And there's an organization now that continues that, led by Devesh Maharaj and Candice Barrett. Candice Barrett, who is the PRO of Candlelight Movement. You see the kind of people that we deal with, and you know in Chan Ishmael, them don't stop helping poor people and feed people and things. Paul Daniel Nahus, our colleagues, the people we walk with, they don't show up for a video. They don't stunt for some likes and some shares. When you not seeing them, it's not because they're home fanning. It's because they're doing something to help people. When the flood happened in Maraval this week, I took responsibility for a couple homes and helped them. And especially one that was there up to today, and helped them rebuild. When I didn't see no member of parliament, when I didn't see no councillor, when I didn't see no regional corporation, I was on the ground. I have been a first responder in every natural disaster in this country. I have been there. And if I wasn't in Greenvale, it was because we were the ones coordinating the first food drop. When everybody else take their selfies and the pics and they no problem at all. But rain was still falling when Felicia and the ladies was in Stanmore Avenue, packing them 4x4 vans. The same 4x4 people that they get pressure to, ask that 4x4 club. It is the Progressive Empowerment Party and them that get relief supplies inside Greenville first. I have been a first responder to every single moment in this country's history. There was a time a pit bull kill a man in Knightsbridge, Cascade. Kill a man in Knightsbridge, Cascade. The property, they said, belonged to Robert Amari. The man who was living in it was the Steve, who is Ishan Steve from the airport. And it's his dog that get away and kill a man. But what made it famous is the next day, a pit bull get away in 4 roads and kill a Rasta man with the same name as the man who get killed in Knightsbridge, Cascade, 24 hours apart. A few weeks later, dogs escape and disemboweled a 10-year-old boy. After that, Mother's Day, a security guard, a female security guard, leaving to go to work, leave her family, her children. She's a mother. It is Mother's Day. She going to work to mind her family. A policeman who had about 12 pit bull, the gate was open and they escaped and they killed that woman. Kill her. People try all how to save her life. Them pit bulls rip her to death. I fought for something called the Dangerous Dog Act. And I know there have some people outside there say, Philip, my pit bull is a gentle giant. I will marry him and have babies with him if I could. And you should. I encourage you. But what we wanted to do was put responsibility for your gentle giant on you. That the next time somebody's dog, because I was watching people, ask Ojo and them if they know these people who was advertising on Facebook. They have this dog and this dog sired that dog and that dog so dangerous. Remember so-and-so? This dog was involved in that. Ask them fellas who was making big money selling pit bulls. And I want to tell you this. All we said was, and somebody said, you kill a whole industry. And I said, thank you. That's what I was trying to do. Because dogs breeding for that, that's not an industry. It should have never been an industry. And I want to tell you something. That is the act perfect? Absolutely not. Should it continue to be amended until responsibility is placed on owners of all dogs and not just a list of dogs? Absolutely. I 101% agree. But I'll tell you something. I'll take that. Because all the dogs that was listed on it, yes, you could have 2 arguments. You could tell me that this one raises babies and then somebody else could could play a YouTube video for somebody who wasn't home and the mother went to feed the dogs and the dog killed the mother. So I don't want to have the argument, we've done it. But what I'll tell you, what I want to tell you happened is this. When Dangerous Dog Act put responsibility, financial responsibility, criminal responsibility on the owners, nobody dared since. And that was the purpose. And that is leadership. I want to tell you, looking back on my whole career as an activist, a social activist, and a politician, I am damn proud. And I want to ask all of them. Some of them have had government. Some of them have had seats in parliament. And I want them to tell me what you did with your time. What you did. What did you do? Because I know what I did. And I have saved lives. I want to tell you, there is a Diego Martin bypass at 4 Roads I designed. I literally got out my car one day because I was living in the shadow of Rich Plain. And every evening, to get my son home from St. Mary's College, I had to drive like a nanny to try and get home before dark. Because we all were trying to drive like nannies. 200,000 of us was trying to get into Diego Martin and into Westmoreland and into Carnage, and we was trying to get there through a bottleneck in 4 Roads. 2 lanes, one going one way, one going the other, that passed at a traffic light that people was pressing to cross the road. That it was a bakery and a gas station and Jurawan parts and Starlight turning out and Suarez grocery. That bottleneck used to create a traffic jam every evening. That from 4 Roads, no traffic. They didn't have Westbees at that time. From 4 Roads, no traffic. But from 4 Roads back to Movie Town, traffic. And every side street in Woodbrook and St. James and Westmoreland's roundabout, when you drive through Westmoreland's and you see coming to the traffic light that they have a strip of concrete running down the center of the road with poles in it, that strip of concrete and those poles is for that. It's for that. I went with a tape measure. I identified all the land that was available, that we could have shifted everything to one side and build a bypass. That was published in the Mirror and the Trinidad Guardian. Nicole Dyer Griffith, who was an advisor, she was a communications advisor to somebody, she called me. She said, this really could work, and I said, yes, it can. And she said, I will set up a meeting for you with the Minister of Works. That was Jack Warren at the time. Me and Jack was never friends then. But I said, no problem. It's in the interest of the people. We created an organization called the Diego Martin Redevelopment Committee. And it was for this purpose. Went to meet with Jack Warner, Roger Israel. He was part of the traffic team. Roger Ganesh, he was the director of highways. And other technocrats. And they all looked at the plan. Right there, we had a marathon meeting with all of them, and they all looked at the plan. And the minister, Jack, said, can this work? And they all said, yeah, it could. And then they started to raise the objections. The only problem is Starlight Driving, Starlight Plaza. We need them on board, because we had to get some land from them, and they might object. I had gone to Starlight because I had heard that, and I met with the manager of Starlight who spoke to the owner of Starlight, Georgia Abood, and she said under certain conditions they would be willing to do it. So when the minister asked, can this be done, we left there, and they have pictures still on the government information website that you will see me and Jack Warner and a couple people in Diego Martin Highway before this existed, and we went to Starlight and we met impromptu, knock on the door of the manager. Miss Eastman is her name? Eastwood, Eastman, something like that. Anyway, we went to meet with her, and she said, yes, they're very interested. And from that day go forward, you could ask Benny Hatem and other people who lived in Diego Martin. You could ask Melanie Harford, other people who were very outspoken at the time, and are calling these names because people would, if they have a problem at the traffic light, they started to think that I was responsible for it. People thought that this was my job because I would be there every evening. Jack Warner agreed, while the study was being done, to fast track it, to give us at the intersection, to give us not police, but those crossing guards, what we call them in Trinidad, traffic police. Anyway, and every evening they would be dispatched. They would meet me in Wong Chong gas station, which is now Eli Zakur gas station, but they would meet me in Wong Chong gas station every evening, and I would walk them and deploy them in the two intersections in and out of Diego Martin and keep that traffic flowing every single day. It took 2 years. And when they went to open, by then Jack was no longer the Minister of Works, Suraj Rambachan was. And Suraj Rambachan is a crusty old dirty drawers. Because Suraj Rambachan, who had no tongue from the back of his head, wanted to take credit for it, no problem. So they had the whole Junior Sammy family and Kamala and Suraj and all of them holding the tape to open it. The man who designed it, I ain't got a dollar. Roger Ganesh, son-in-law, Calco, get the contract and all that. Western, that was her name. All of that went on. All of that, and I watch all of that. People benefit, but you know who benefited the most? There is no traffic to get home to Diego Martin anymore. It doesn't cause a backup by St. Finbar's all the way to the traffic light by 4 roads. It doesn't cause a road rage fight by the roundabout in Westmoreland. All of that was solved by this. This is my track record. This is what I've done for the country. We created My Daily Soup, an organization called 141, formed and started to do for the homeless in San Fernando what we were doing in Port of Spain. We created something called a care package. And we would, at Christmas time, we would feed the homeless. In fact, we've done this for 26 years. We feed the homeless on Christmas Day. Melissa Dasarat, who was a reporter on TTT at the time, she said this was her first interview. She interviewed me and my son in the rain, feeding the homeless, Christmas Day, 26 years ago. We did that every Christmas Day, and then we created care packages. We would come out on Boxing Day and give all of the homeless people in town, we would give them a reusable bag with a towel and personal hygiene, toothpaste, toothbrush, shampoo, conditioner, toilet paper, the works inside that reusable bag, and say, start your year off right, look your care package. And the first year we gave them out, I remember a guy was crying to me. He said, you all really see us as human beings. He said, after this, everybody could feed us. But this and that care package, 1 year a young boy did it because we let people come. We used to, if you scroll back in my Facebook, you would see we would be announcing it. And we would ask people to come on board and help us. If you want to volunteer, bring your children and let them see. And this little boy from America who was in Trinidad for Christmas came with his family and did it and went and did it in their school in America. And it's growing forward in the world. 141 does things like that in San Fernando, and that was a perfect, and we wanted to encourage more and more people to emulate what we were doing and give the homeless some support. The orphans, when we started the Jericho project, the orphans were getting zero, the orphan homes were getting zero funding from the state. And when we created the Jericho project, and we said we are going to fight for that, Dikoto was the minister in the government, and we met with Dikoto, and he said this is unacceptable, and they made it that the homes started to get subventions, and in 2 years they got an increase in their subvention, and they were never, the state was put in through the courts, were putting orphans in homes, and the state wasn't supporting them, and because there was a Jericho project, the orphans started to get support. Every year, Tara Dial and crew of the Jericho project would have an event called the Kids Fun-a-thon opposite the Archbishop's house. Every year for over 20 years, we would have all of the orphans come to the savannah, and we would give them a day just for them, the Kids Fun-a-thon. The highlight of that day was the world's longest musical chairs, hundreds of chairs in a row. And Tara would knock on doors, everybody who imported anything, and Tara would get a prize for everybody who take part. I'm telling you, cupcakes, we would have all kind of food. There was this Muslim family who would come every year and make sawine. It was so that people would come and make doubles. And Leela, my hairdresser, she would organize people, the woman who has go to cut my hair, she would organize people to bring food and feed all these children. And when it was over, all the homes would come. Mario's every year, Harvard, and I want to tell Harvard thanks again, because every year Harvard would send pizzas for us, and we would send home boxes of food and toys and everything that was left, share it up among the homes. Cases, we used to have the chubby mascot. It was a brilliant thing, and that we did that every year. It hasn't happened because of COVID-19, so we're going to give them a super blowout when we could party them again. And I just wanted to tell you, we made a difference for all of these publics that we set out for. I have gotten HDC houses for people medically unfit, can't work. I know, and I know my track record. I know what I have accomplished. That highway, I got a highway built, the UNC claim that it was theirs. Jack Warner was the minister, but it was my design. And I give Jack his kudos when Jack wants something done, because that work started right away. Right away, and we solved that problem. We solved the highway, we got homes for people. Every HDC housing development in town, I know people living in there that I got houses for. People who just was beaten by the system, and I worked with them. Homeless, orphans, disabled, highway, Dangerous Dog Act, Children's Act, 2 laws. I was responsible in helping to get 2 bills passed into law. I have never held public office. I have never held public office. Ask every politician to come to you, and this is not the sum total of all I've done. I've led the intervention on behalf of Trinidad. We sent a container of stuff to Somalia. We sent stuff. I was the point person in Trinidad for the Haiti earthquake in 2008. I was the person people were calling from the Red Cross, go right back. I was coordinating our movement of goods to Haiti. When I tell you, it's not done, just those things I listed, you know. I've been a very serious activist. I have been published millions of words. I had one of the most listened to radio talk shows on 9/11 and 90.1. I can't remember that right now. What is CNNG? 91.1. And on a Sunday, we had a show called Spin Cycle. And for 3 Sundays in a row, we did what nobody ever did before. We brought into the studio survivors of the coup in 1990. We brought former ministers. We brought owners of businesses and establishments together. And for 3 weeks, we had a show where the people would call in and talk to for 3 hours on a Sunday. We brought the radio broadcasters who were on the radio at the time. We brought them back for the first time. Nobody ever did that before. And that is available right now. They should be sharing that every year on the 27th of July, because all of the information there. Raul Pantin was in that studio with me. Raul Pantin was a hostage in TTT. We had hostages with us. And one of the days, a caller called in to speak to Raul Pantin. He said, "Raul, you remember me?" And that was the man who was holding the gun that was supposed to kill Raul if they get the instruction to kill the hostages. Raul knew his killer. He knew the gun over those 4 days. And we had that type of conversation. It's not a little bit of things we did. It's not a little bit of things. It's a lot. An absolute lot. My blog was so popular that when the Mirror relaunched, Maxi Coffee, that Maxi Coffee, who turned around and turned out to be a traitor to our friendship. Maxi Coffee asked me to write in the Mirror, not one day, both days. I was the only person who was writing on weekday and weekend editions. I want to tell you, it's a lot. And looking back now at 1 year, 1 year is gone. Ian Griffith, Anne-Marie Doolal, Harry Hunt. Ian and Harry and I would meet. I met Ian Griffith when I met Marsha Riley. She's Marsha Walker now. She was Marsha Riley then. I met Ian Griffith and Marsha Riley when Arbor School was under pressure from the PNM and the UNC. And I joined them and helped them get their school open. And Ian and I went on to be fast friends. We talk every day. After this video, he gonna tell me his opinion on the video. But Ian and Harry Hunt, Harry was somebody who used to post on Facebook. Limma McLeod Wilkinson was somebody I used to talk to on Facebook. She was always an outspoken activist. Paul Daniel Naus as well. And I remember getting those people together, meeting with Ian and Harry. And then one day we said, you know what? We brought Anne-Marie Dulal to a meeting. We said, we have to start a political movement. It's not enough to just keep going from PNM to UNC. There has to be a real change that doesn't come out of the belly or the bowels of one of those parties. And we started the Progressive Empowerment Party. Kaifa Michael Modest, who works with me now, he is my right hand. Kaifa Michael Modest was also, I spent my birthday, because the Progressive Empowerment Party was launched on the 18th of January 2017. My birthday is January 17th. The day before the launch, Kaifa and me spent it in the old Piarco Airport in the Bond, trying to clear the PEP jerseys that we had ordered for the launch. We had small money, and it was just a growing group of people. And we launched that party in 2017. And by 2020, we were the third largest political movement in the country. And we contested the election. We didn't get the full slate we wanted because it was pretty much a snap election. We were in the process of beginning the screening. You have to remember, we don't have drug trafficker money, and we don't have contractor money and corruption money. When you see me come on these shows every night and beg you to buy a jersey or to pay to sign up to something, it pays for those things. That's what it does. That's what it does. Please share the video right now for the people who don't know that we're on. And I want you to go through these things with me, because I need you to know what we've done in the past year. We've gotten to here. They called a snap election. We had to build a studio. Satish Ramsaran had to get a studio functional. Glenn Robinson, Akil Camps, and others like them burned the midnight oil and made it possible for us to broadcast our own content. Understand that I had to call ourselves a fledgling organization, no deep pocket financiers. Every single dollar we get, we used to have a barbecue, we used to have cake sale, you name it. Felicia Walk was the beg. For that whole election, Felicia spent the whole election begging people for money. I don't know how she even get to attend to her own constituency. But all of and every night that you saw that we had a show on any of the TV stations, every time she booked a show for us, the cost went up every single time. Until deep pockets bought up all the time, and we were only allowed 5 o'clock on a Sunday and all kind of craziness, 2 o'clock in the morning. That's what they were doing us. That's how sting. They have no equal time law in Trinidad. There's nothing to protect. So when people say fighters are independent, go-uppers are independent, we need independence, they don't know what they're talking about. It's easy to sit down and talk. You have to go through this fire. You have to walk through that valley of death to understand how stink politics is. The loudest voice in election 2020 was Phillip Edward Alexander. You know what the EBC did? The EBC published a list of candidates on election day without my name, as if I am no longer contesting the election. And the PNM had people ringing people to tell people Phillip bow out the race. That is the nastiness that we had to face and fight. We had to fight a media that on nomination day covered every party. Parties that had no candidates got coverage and didn't cover the third largest party in the country. Why? Because they know, every single person in this country knows one thing, that our policies then were the strongest policies in this country. What the people in the contract mafia knew, what Harryback and friends knew, you all know now. How strong I am, how capable, able, and courageous I am, and that I would fight to the very end for something. They knew it then. They were scared to death of it then. Right now, everybody in Trinidad and Tobago is aware that there is a Philip Edward Alexander and a movement of people that capable of not only forming a government, running a country. And we will go through that tonight, you know. We'll go through all of those items tonight. We will go through what should have been done in everything. But I just wanted you to know, because unlike a lot of them, and we lost our deposits. People tell me, thousands of people tell me they vote for me. It show up nowhere, and I don't trust any organ of state. There was no oversight. We couldn't afford to pay people to sit down in every single, and I know they bury our votes. And I can't prove it, so I had to just let it go. And I let it go. I absolutely let it go. And by October, after losing that election, we took a breath. We took a breath. We had meetings, we debriefed, we talked, we planned going forward. And in less than 2 months, launched what is now the largest activist group in Trinidad and Tobago's history. The Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago hit the ground running like rhinoceroses. We shook the ground. We were signing up. We had Sean Sunarine can tell you, we were working round the clock with a pandemic. They had tens of thousands of people just fighting to get their membership and just coordinating that. We were hiring people by the 10s and 20s to just man phones, just call people back, just tell them we're going to deal with you. We just have a mad backlog. And that was my job, to come and tell you all every night, you're going to get your card, you're going to get your membership. We still have people who fell through the cracks. Still, right now. If I'm telling you, I'm talking about this right now on this video, people are going to post, I'm still waiting on my card. And we need you to speak up so we can identify you and solve the problem. Pandemic, printer closed down, we get somebody to donate our own card printer. I tell you, solving problems, pandemic, no couriers working, we create our own delivery drivers. We organized that, coordinated that. We were actually in the business, besides the Citizens Union and all the things in the Citizens Union were supposed to be and do, we were in the business of coordinating a massive sign-up, membership, distribution, collection, like you wouldn't believe. Talk about time and motion. And God bless Felicia Holder, Sean Sunarine, Satish Ramsaran. See those three people? No matter where I go in life, no matter how far I reach along this journey, Felicia Holder, Sean Sunarine, Satish Ramsaran are responsible. They've stood with me, by me, they've held me up, they've protected me, they've kept the wheels on the ground. They were unreasonable things that I was pushing for. And when I tell you unreasonable, I'm hearing it coming out my mouth and I know it's unreasonable. And these three people, we have a lot of other people, and I'm afraid to start to name people and then forget a couple, because that will be bad for them and worse for me. But I want to tell you, Felicia, Sean, and Satish coordinated those teams of people. And there was membership people, and there was delivery people, and there was just tech support people. We had to rebuild a studio. That happened in 2 weeks. I want to tell you something. And then every time, and inside all of that, launched the Citizens Union in October. And we finally get our feet on the ground, and Andrea Barrett happened. And I went to light a candle. Just a candle. For her. For the country. To say this cannot be acceptable. I just went to light that candle. I didn't know what was going to happen next. I just wanted to light a candle. I wanted to do something. Because we were fighting so hard. Find her. Please find her. And when they found her and she wasn't alive, it broke something in me. And I think I had reached a place, you know, you reach sometimes you just say, F it. I think that's where I was. I was really, really angry. The video that I made that night by myself, outside, it had been rebroadcasted in different countries around the world. And people in Trinidad saw it. It was live, and I was live, and the same thing I was feeling, other people were feeling, and people started to come. I'll never forget the people that we were meeting that would just come in, and they were just on the thread, and they was asking, could we come and light a candle too? I said, of course, light your own candle. And that was just supposed to be one night. And then it became, that night, people said, this has to be 9 nights. Everybody said it. It was Joshua, my son, was the first person to suggest it, but everybody was saying, yes, this has to be a week. There's too much hurt here. There's too much hurt. There's too much anger. You have to give the people an outlet. And we said, okay. So we announced that night that we will be here for 8 more nights. And I didn't discuss that with Felicia, Satish, or Sean. And that became a new normal, to make sure that we had coordination, permissions from the Commissioner of Police every night, dealing with the Parliament Police, dealing with the City Police. And my job was to get there for 7 o'clock. It was 7 or 8. Get the candle lit in time for the bells to ring and the live video to start. Sean, Satish, Felicia, and a lot of other people. And in this, my son Joshua, Joseph, Rich Paul, a couple other people really, really stepped up their game. And it just grew. And the feeling, people were sending videos from, I remember this family was sending us videos from La Brea. People were sending videos, they're saying, we with you, we're doing this, we're standing for Andrea. And we knew that this was going to be something big. And it was becoming something massive. And then her funeral happened. And Joshua, my son, who is friendly with this group of people who have this, they're into telecommunications, they're into videography, and they're really, really talented. And right now their name is escaping me, but I'm hoping Satish or somebody could run their name across the thing so I could read their names and say it. They did this with us for free. They did a broadcast of Andrea's funeral that the world saw that was better than anything CNC3 or TB6 or anybody else. Deep Focus was their name. Deep Focus. And that boy who owns Deep Focus, I will never be able to thank him enough, because between Satish and him and their crew, the funeral, and I had not yet met Andrea's daddy yet. I was in Andrea's daddy's house and I had not met him as yet, but they knew of us, and they invited us to come to the funeral, and so we went. So I'm filming with my phone in my hand, and Deep Focus set up in 3 locations: in Andrea's house, at the courthouse where we were all going to go to before going to the church, and then the broadcast from the church was international. I mean, it was Lakewood quality. The work that Deep Focus did, I think Deep Focus is the best at what they do. And I was holding my phone in Andrea's house when the coffin arrived, and for the first time ever, I saw my views as 18,200 people watching through my camera, and they had all the other media there. But the work that Joshua and Satish and Deep Focus did, that day we crossed 1 million views globally. People were just pouring love for Andrea. And when we left the funeral, because the funeral was long and the funeral was moving, and when we left the funeral, I said, are we having a gathering tonight? I mean, they said, this is the 9th night. I said, yeah, but the funeral has happened, and you know, Trinidadians move on. I said, no, we have to have this. And again, they had organized, and people came at stage. And again, this is a lot of the work that my son Josh coordinated. And he's very good at that, getting that kind of stuff together. Between him, Akil Camps every night was making sure. And we had all that audio you were hearing was running off a battery in my van, and Akil was running extension cords through Woodford Square. I mean, it was amazing the things that these people do. And this is still an aside. It's an aside that I'm telling you this, but I have to tell you this. All of the Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago, all of us, stopped what we were doing to focus on Andrea. Every night, by the third night, picking up the candles took more than an hour. It was thousands of candles, as far as the eye could see. And we had to pick up all, especially the glass ones, and take them back to the office and offload them. There was a security guard there who, the first night we paid him to help us, but by the second, third night he was part of the crew and he was just there to help us offload Joseph and the boys. I'll never forget, I met Jovi and them, and they were very, very helpful. So the night of the funeral, that night, we didn't know we were there, and people just were coming, and I realized this thing not ending. Andrea touched this nation in a massive way. And then, well, you know, Inchan came down with the family, and I had met Andrea's daddy in the church, but Inchan came down with the family and brought them on the stage to thank the public, and that was a real moving moment. And then Inchan and I hugged and pledged to work together. And then while Inchan and I was talking, looking into the crowd, we had no lights or nothing, so you're just making do, but looking into the crowd, I see these two big white spectacles looking up on me. I see Ian Ali. I said, Ian, come up on the stage now, man. And then, well, you know, the rest was history. And it spawned the candlelight movement. And Candice Barrett, who from the first or second night, she came, Devish Maraj came, attorney at law, Devish just, I mean, I call in names of people who came every night and who were just coordinating. So Devish organized a pundit when on nights that you had to have some prayers. But Candice took the role of holding that mic and making a space. She cleared a space in the conversation for victims, other victims. And by the third night, all of the families of all the other victims were coming. And victims were opening up and telling their stories. And so it was a no-brainer that she'd be the PRO for the Candlelight movement when it was officially formed. And we went on to have a meeting in the first meeting. The second meeting was in Baraka Grounds. We had a plan to have a meeting every week. We were going Arima, we were going San Fernando. When the COVID, the commissioner of police said, we can't have no more public meetings. But it was getting massive and it was getting huge. And for all of that time, the Citizens Union, Sean Sunarain and his crew, while the rest of us was embedded in coordinating this petition. And the military precision that was required for Paul and Sean and the rest of them to get those petitions out and to get them signed and to get them back during the pandemic. I mean, again, I can't begin to say how hard these people worked. But the Citizens Union members and Sean and his crew made it possible for us to do these things. And while we were doing this, the Citizens Union was still growing and it was still happening. And looking at it now, having a meeting this week, we're opening a grocery. That's what we're opening. It's called Victoria Grab and Go. We're opening that. We're just waiting on documentation. We're ready to go 3 weeks now. And I want to show you how capable these people are. And all of this is to generate funding and to help fund the organization. Come back to where we are as a nation. Let's talk the things. I just wanted you to know how we got here, what we were doing, what we've done, what I've done, and what we've done. I wanted you to know that this is not just a spit in the sea. It's not a pelt, a stone. This is a show up and suck it and see. This is a continuous attempt to save this country. It's never stopped. Opportunities presented itself for me to run for Diego Martin Central for the PNM, and I had to turn it down. An opportunity came up for me to run for Diego Martin West for the UNC, and I had to turn that down as well. I ran as an independent in 2015 against Keith Rowley in Diego Martin West, and I ran in the Diego Martin Northeast seat in 2020. I've been through 2 elections, once as an independent and once as a leader of a political party, and not a fly-by-night political party, the 3rd largest political party in the country. I'll tell you this, our manifesto and we had stopped. We actually have 100 policies, and we had put out, for the launch of the party, we had put out a teaser called 21 Policies. And over the course of the years, that because we had every month the Progressive Empowerment Party for 4 years. We were in villages and communities far flung throughout the country, all over, every month, sometimes twice a month. And we had a meeting every Saturday at noon in Stanmore Avenue that anybody could have come and attend. That's to show how hard we worked. And over the years, it had come to be accepted that our 21 policies alone was more constructive policy than anything the PNM and the UNC was putting out. I understand racism to a point. And not even racism, tribalism. I don't want to say I understand racism. I understand tribalism to a point. I understand that the country has been run where people have been marginalized, and that the only way to feel safe is to be part of a group. I get that. I just don't understand why it has to define us forever. We all have a mind. By now, people know I've given up 28 years of my life doing this. Face all kind of victimization, all kind of attack, all kind of death threats, all kind of lawsuits. I have been, and were it not for Tara Dial and Jamie Maraj in the Jericho Project, and Sean Sunarayan, Felicia Holder, and Satish Ramsaran in the Progressive Empowerment Party, and now the Citizens Union. If it were not for those people, I don't know if I'd still, or if I would have accomplished all the things that I've accomplished. I'll tell you this. We had a flood this week because rain fell. One minister say global warming. The other minister say it was a freak storm. And both of them right. But neither of them were able to say what the government's done in its, forget the 5 other years. You hear a year. Today is 1 year that your government. I'm forgetting the 5 years, I'm forgetting the 41 years. I'm talking to you about your year that you're here. Okay? Let's go through all the things, because that's 20% of your term gone. 20% of your term is behind us. The most important thing for a government is the creation of a strong economy that generates jobs. Because jobs, putting the people to work, is what moves the country forward. Having a vision for what the country should be and what people should be trained to be, all of that is the interlocking of, and I remember when Akil Camp said in Santa Cruz, he said, the thing he loved most about the 21 policies is how they all worked together. If I start to talk about those policies tonight, they all just flow into each other. Our water policy flows into our flooding policy. I mean, it's like that. So when you're talking about jobs, you have to talk about tertiary education, you have to talk about finance, you have to talk about entrepreneur support. You have to talk about what you're doing as a government. You have to talk about overseas missions. You have to talk about your high commissioners and the ambassadors and what their roles are. All of that come together under the heading jobs. Because your high commissioners and the ambassadors all over the world should only be paid if they are selling Trinidad business to the world and bringing foreign direct investment to Trinidad, and not just oil and gas. And people say, Phillip, things hard, petroleum closed down, oil and gas price low. Singapore don't have oil or gas. They are counted in the top 10 countries in the world to live. They got independence same time as us. They've never had oil or gas. They are a developed country. Their economy eclipsed the United States of America as the most competitive economy in the world. Singapore is less than half the size of Trinidad. So it's not a major country. It's 5.2 million people rowing in the same direction, have their country on the tip of everybody's tongue. A country where it works. So you can't get away with things, and why would you need to get away with things? If they tell you that there are no drugs in Singapore, why is that a bad thing? How is drugs a good thing? If your society needs drugs to function, does it not tell you that you're doing something wrong? That the people are miserable and unhappy? The real fight in this video tonight. And the numbers, while high compared to other people's videos, is not as high as it should be. And I want to ask you to just please keep sharing the video. Just keep clicking share, and share it on your page, and share it on your WhatsApp, and share it in groups and on other pages, so that people could try and pick up the link. Your high commissioners and your ministers, what are they, and your ambassadors, have you transformed them into selling Trinidad business to the world and bringing foreign direct investment? What foreign direct investment have they brought? What industry outside oil and gas have we entertained in the last 12 months? None. Zero. Zero. How many jobs have you created? None. In fact, we've lost 120,000 jobs. But there's a pandemic. We lost those 120,000 jobs before. What's happening now is the kill shot. This is the head shot. This is the last shot required to kill the economy. But you had it on life support before there was a COVID-19. What did you do? Coming into office, August 10, 2020, 9 months into a pandemic. What did you do to accommodate for that pandemic, knowing that we have to save lives and livelihoods? What did you do besides made sure that all of your friends, family, financiers, and party supporters in the public service continue to get paid, even if they're home? You and all of your parliamentary friends and all your minister friends and ministers that not worth a cent. Shamfa Kujo should have to pay back every dollar she's gotten as Minister of Sport. She's not worth a dollar. She should be giving back every... Our Minister of Housing is a joke. Our Minister of Tourism is a punchline. We have a set of ministers that only getting ministerial salary as reward for supporting a political party. All of this is corruption. This is theft. We've told you the country don't need more than 14 ministers. 13 at best. A lot of the ministries we have should be departments. There should be a department of sport and a department of tourism, a department of housing. We have stuff as ministries that should never be. Trinidad has more cabinet positions with 1.4 million than India, the largest democracy in the world with 1.4 billion people. India has 1,000 times our population. For every one person Trinidad has, India has 1,000. So they have 1,400 million people. And our cabinet bigger than theirs. I like that. What did you do to accommodate the pandemic? What did you do to expand public health to absorb the pandemic? You see, I make fun of these people. I call her Mascara Girl. I call the next one Steffi Graf and Trotman. I have no respect for them. I have no respect for Parasham. I think Parasham should give back his degree and go and sell. Boy, let me don't even add anything to that sentence. But I don't think that these are people that should be respected, trusted, or in the positions that they're in. think Terence the Alsing is a bloody joke. I think that he is just there in that position to distract us from the rest of the stealing and theft going on in the country, because there is so much loathing, hate for the incompetent of this entire team. There's nothing there. When they come to tell you on a Saturday about we have a 33% spike and a 77% spike and we're running out of beds, what did you do to expand? You pelt a stone, you went and get 6 tents from America and you put it in the complex next to covered space. You didn't need America's tents. And rent tent from Johnny Q and the rest of your friends. You didn't need to do that. They have toilets and bathrooms and showers and lockers and everything all around the GNPA complex in the National Stadium. You didn't need to spend $1. You just needed to move in. But that's not what it was about. You weren't expanding. You were using COVID. COVID's numbers needed to terrorize this public so that they will accept any piece of bullshit coming out your mouth. And that's what you did. So when you tell us about 27%, 97%, or 47%, miss me with your bullshit. We don't know what you mean. 5,400 people are sick with COVID right now out of 1.4 million people. 40,000 in total have gotten tested positive for COVID. But you vaccinated 600,000 people. This is madness. Why aren't you walking around the country unzipping flies and putting condoms on penises? Staple them on so that AIDS don't happen. Why are you not doing that? Why isn't chemo free? Why aren't you telling people if you don't come and get your cure for cancer, you can't go and eat in the grocery? This COVID-19 bullshit, because there's a virus, I keep saying that, there is a virus. But what was done because there's a virus is criminal. And at some point, if we don't get past our tribalism and elect a functional, capable, competent government, you will never get justice in this country. I have said that this government told us there were 1,551 beds in the parallel health sector. And by the time they had manipulated and orchestrated their spike after the Tobago zest, there were only 542 beds. Mascara Girl is telling us that there is an increase in ICU and HDU beds, but they shut down the stunt in the stadium. So what exactly are you saying? And what exactly is going on in the name of managing a pandemic? You see, I could watch Stephen Valdez and Stephen Cadiz and Ojo and them talking this shit about jab, 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 jab. Because I understand, if you're limited in your brain, you can't absorb critical thinking. You can't manage real fact. You can't look at numbers and say, if in 19 months only 40,000 people got this virus that ended up requiring any kind of state assistance, if over 200,000, as the Prime Minister said, got it and didn't even know it, maybe we overreacting, or maybe we aiming at the wrong thing. We know now of the 1,100 people who died. We are able, Steffi Graf have the equipment. He have the graph making machine. Just plug in the data of all the people who died. Break it down by age, obesity, comorbidity. Those 3 things. And it will tell you straight up. A monkey could read it and understand. Anybody over 60, anybody over 200 pounds, anybody with any of these underlying conditions, pre-existing conditions, quarantine them. Lock them down. I hear jackass businessman today, but the TV6 call him businessman. Here say his name, and there say what business he running. He just businessman, because he dressed in a shirt. I's a businessman tonight. Businessman say, mandatory vaccine, think about it, bullshit. Bullshit. The Prime Minister said 200,000 people have had this disease and not know it. And they've gotten over it, and they have natural immunity. Stop the bullshit now. It shouldn't come down. And I'm saying these words. We have no options in this country to confront what is going wrong in governance. You cannot tell the people that their only voice after this is the riot. That is wrong. There must be a mechanism to rein in the government. There must be some system set up, built in, constitutionally, so that if the government is doing shit, we could fire them. And all this government is doing is shit. Colm Imbert is the worst minister of finance the country has ever had. You've not heard a single thing from Colm Imbert that made sense for the 6 years. Not one thing. We've come away from each budget with a joke. We've had budgets built on bulbs. We've had budgets built on nothing, specious nonsense. We have a situation where the Tobago House of Assembly that is given $2.4 billion every year has not accounted for what it's done with that money for the past 12 years. And there's no system to bring that to any kind of order. So just so $24 billion could disappear into friends' finances' pockets. They are contracting Tobago, driving more sports car than they have in the whole of Trinidad. Colm Imbert doesn't need to be fired. He should have never been hired. Ever. Not in that position. To call him a jackass is to insult jackasses. When I say that to you tonight and you say, yeah, Philip, you're right. You all need to understand why the Citizens Union exists, you know. We are literally a union of people. We are a union of citizens. We want to get to a critical mass of citizens who stand on the authority of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Today I went for a bicycle ride. A bicycle ride. I was riding through Ellerslie, Wainwright Street, or Rapsey Street. Two young black guys, middle-class looking black guys. A police vehicle had pulled them over. So the police vehicle is parked in front of their car like this. So one, you call him a red boy, and the other one, black. The two of them stand up with their hand behind their head, in short pants and sandals. And I looked, and I saw two boys in their early 20s, I'm sure. And I saw everybody's son that I know, including mine. So I ridden past, because there was police on the other side of the street, and the car doors in the SUV that they was driving, so it had to be one of them mummies' car. Police was searching. And I'm riding by and I'm saying, this is not my problem. I can't deal with every problem. And as hard as that was looking, I can't stop. And I turn around because I had no choice but to stop. And I pull up right behind and I park up my bicycle, looking at this scene now. So the police officer on the other side of the road, he nodded to me. I nodded back to him. I'm telling you something. They're carrying themselves professional to a fault. While I'm there, they're searching the car. Two other police officers come, both of them acknowledged and went to give support. And I'm watching these two boys and I'm thinking, I didn't know why I'm still here. It's not that I expect police brutality. I don't think we have that as bad as we pretend in Trinidad, but I don't live in the ghetto community, and it is in the ghetto community I hear most of the complaints. So I can't say that I could speak to that with intelligence, but I know that I could speak to this, that even before I pull up there, the officers who were dealing with these boys, they didn't have to acknowledge me. They were doing their job, and they were doing their job professionally. Now, I didn't know what caused the stop, and I can't involve myself at all. I am not a police officer, and I am not their lawyer. So I can't involve myself in the conversation, so all I could do is stay there. And there's a lot of traffic, because a police car on that side, a police car on this side, stop this car, so everybody want to rubberneck, and there's a lot of traffic in front of the entrance to LSD Plaza. And then the officer across the road, he came to me and he said, I said, so what are you looking like? He said, well, they have some minor narcotics or something like that, and we have to take them to the station, and they have to call their parents. And I felt like they were responsible enough that they would tell me that. It gave me some confidence that they would say that. The two officers who came after, when they were walking back, stopped, talk a little shit with me, because people recognize me and say, ah, boy, you're out for a little exercise and thing. And I can't live. I can't understand why we live so interconnected in this country and are yet so separate. While I'm riding my bicycle, I'm riding out of St. Clair to meet Western Main Road, and I am thinking at some point I'm going to ride across a line where wealth ends and poverty begins. I'm going to ride across that line. I saw a video tonight about a family that live in a house that's falling on them, and to call it a house is to stretch the meaning, but it's galvanized and wood and it's leaning and it's old and it's decrepit and there's no explaining how a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, a country that has earned and spent $3 trillion in 58 years, there's no saying. I want you to understand something. Norway, it's about the size of Trinidad population. Norway got oil 50 years after Trinidad, and yet Norway was able to put aside $1 trillion US. And every year, Norway makes $6 million TT for every man, woman, and child in Trinidad and Tobago as interest on their money. You could imagine you're a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and our country having been properly stewarded from Eric Williams to now. We have $1 trillion US in our Heritage and Stabilization Fund. And every year, on your birthday, the government deposits $3 million in your bank account. Look, your share. Our police officers are not paid properly. I know that. I know a lot of them. They paid late. The country is run criminally bad. There is not a single soul in this country, I don't care how diehard you are, that's never run into the wall of the failure that is this nation state of Trinidad and Tobago. You can't escape it. It's around you. It's in your empty taps. It's in the potholes that you have to drive around that has become, we drive like we slaloming. We don't drive. Our job is to learn and remember where the potholes are. I mean, you're new to the road that you turn into, you gotta drive slow. The people who drive on Mon Coco Road in PT Valley, people tell me, come south, come and see this road, come and see that road. It's everywhere. But the people who drive on Mon Coco Road in PT Valley, and the reason I keep talking about places that fall between Diego Martin West and Diego Martin Northeast, is the two most powerful offices of state, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. People live in shit. Sandwich between there is Cocorite. Cocorite falls in Diego Martin Central. And that is a political post that right now is occupied by a jackass. Simon de Nobrega doesn't know anything about politics. He doesn't know anything about governance. He pretty much doesn't know anything about anything. He is a bench holder, a space warmer, and he's being rewarded for loyalty. And while he's being rewarded for loyalty, there's a place in Cocorite called Waterhole that has not had water for 15 years. They don't get water. Understand what we're talking about. They have to steal water. That's what we're dealing with. There are people in Cocorite who break the street light outside of the entrance to Cocorite because there's a hole at the entrance to Cocorite that if you don't know and you hit it, you bust your tire and they could rob you. And they don't let them fix that hole because that's a way for them to make money. And I am not knocking them. I don't understand how a country that that each of them inside a day should be a millionaire. They live in such shit. They live in hovels. As you go up the hill, Cocorite was used for voter padding. So they built some, National Housing Authority built some ghetto complexes in Cocorite decades ago. So they're in total disrepair. They have no fire escape. Is literally treating people one level above shit. But they is the big shots in Cocorite. Because when you get past those ghetto complexes, you go up the hill where people have carved stairs into the mountain and tracks. It is not something that you could say is planned. You can't reach it with an ambulance. You can't reach it. If you buy something at Courts, you had to walk it up the stairs. And I'm talking about a proper long walk. And it's tracks walking through people, other people, in front of other people's space. And you had to experience that. You have to experience. And everybody in front of your house is responsible for your section of track. And you have to experience how these people live. And all I think is the hateful contempt. They have this fellow named Alvin Narine. I remember every time I talk about the condition black Trinbagonians live in the predominantly diehard PNM communities, this fellow named Alvin Narine would tell me about small islanders that overstay in Trinidad. And I think to myself, you're telling me that River Estate, Patna, Bagatelle, Coville, Rich Plain, Mason, Factory Road, La Puerta, Saganga, Abbey Pujad, Big Yard, Hague Street, Scorpion, Point Cumana, the whole of Caranage, Cocorite, Dabadurti, Waterhole, Hardin Place. You telling me Belmont, Gonzales, you telling me Morvan, Beetham, Lavantil, Sealots, you telling me all of them is small islanders? That's about 300,000 people I just talk about there. That's our Trinbagonian black brothers and sisters that have been abandoned and used. Morgan Job, God bless his soul. Morgan Job, I think of Morgan Job and I think that man went to his grave not saving the people he tried to save. And he is the person that makes me think, like tonight, and send Bella to bed early so I could do this video. And I used to send Josh to bed so I could do videos. So, I mean, they've both sacrificed. And I'm thinking, when I think of Morgan Job, I think, if he could put so much, Dr. Morgan Job, he was one of the most educated, brightest people in this country. And he died in poverty, hustling on Power 102 to make a little money. Instead of being used as a resource, he understood the socio-economic structure of Africa. And he contrasted and compared to the black diaspora. He's the person who put that into the national narrative. And he was the person who was talking about all the ways that we needed to elevate. And I'm thinking, all of us knew Morgan Job had a big show during the 80s. 40 years ago. 40 years ago. Talking about the black condition. That means that there are black Trinbagonians suffering right now in poverty and mind-numbing squalor and violence that weren't alive when Morgan Job was fighting for them. They weren't alive. They don't even know that somebody existed who spoke about the junior second, senior secondary education system that was designed to create a workforce, and a low-end workforce, an undereducated workforce that could be paid slave wages. Because you can't complain. You do have a degree, you have no chance of getting one. You don't understand where you are. You've been, because I want to tell you this, they have no single human being that is stupid. Not one. Everybody has the ability to learn. Unless you have an absolute diagnosis of Down syndrome or some brain defect, once you have a normal brain, you could learn everything. You could learn everything. You could become anything. And I look at Barack Obama, and I compare Barack Obama to black Trinbagonians. And I think that if Barack Obama, because I hear his story, if Barack Obama was born in Trinidad and Tobago, Barack Obama would have gone to jail. Barack Obama would have gone to jail or he would have ended up dead. He would have never reached where he got to, because you don't find people who born in poverty in these communities escaping it easily. You don't. Every now and then somebody will tell you, Philip, you can't back talk Mukarapo. Look, I know somebody who get 3 passes, 4 passes, 5 passes. Somebody get 9 passes. You know why you could tell me that? Because it is the exception. It's not the rule. You're supposed to tell me, Philip, you can't back talk Mukarapo secondary. Everybody just get passes, but you can't. And because you can't say that, and I don't argue when you tell me about the one person who get 9, I applaud them. But I feel sorry for the rest, the other tens of thousands who have wasted the brightest part of their developmental lives that they will never get back. You have children going to school in an education system that is designed to fail them. That's where we are. We send them by the maxi load, we bad talk them, we talk shit about them, we humiliate and shame them, we call them names. I live in this country. I am watching people who are victims of maladministrations for 58 years being named, shamed, and blamed for their condition. And I think to myself, if Morgan Joe, who was black like tar, couldn't reach with his conversation, where I going with my caramel latte complexion? Who I think I touching? Who hearing my voice? Who does it make a difference to? And why do we still do it? And then 128,500 people physically signed Andrea's petition. I tell you, we crossed 200,000 in the count, you know. But Paul Nahus rejected thousands of sheets. Don't like how this sign, this look like one person signed all 10. You just reject, reject, reject. They sat down, teams of people, and went through each and every petition. And they approved 128,500. And that the groundswell, the togetherness that happened for Andrea tells me that we've been looking for the key to unlock the chains that divided us. And that little girl, Andrea Barrett, gave us that key. It is why those 128,500 signatures are safely safeguarded in a place only 4 people in the world know where it is. And that after, whenever, this stunt state of emergency that we all know was designed to interrupt the momentum of the candlelight movement, because by the time we reach South, there are 100,000 people in our street. Make no mistake. Make no mistake at all. And I want you to hear me say this as we continue on the conversation. The movement is just on pause. Have your state of emergency. Stunt for them. The movement on pause is growing. It's growing through the Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago. It's growing through the candlelight movement. It's growing through all the people who are standing by and waiting. Red, white, black, green, and every shade in between. I want to tell you, you could be diehard, but please don't be stupid. I tell people all the time, when you become a parent, your life's choices are no longer about what's best for you. When you become a parent, all of your life's choices from now on is what's best for my children. What's for them? I will vote, but you give me the opposite of what I need to say into office if it will make my children's lives better. How do we get back $3 trillion? How? How do we get that back? Under Eric Williams, the Carney Racing Complex, they stole $1 billion before we knew what $1 billion was. We couldn't even name the amount of money they stole when they stole it. You believe that? It's hard for me to look people in the eye who've been fooled into thinking that Eric Williams set black people free. Where? Where are they free? Laventille Hill is 100 years older than Goodwood Park Hill. Where have they been set free? The Black Power movement in this country that marched, that was led by fellas like McCandle Dagger, that marched to get the grandchildren of Africa in this country respect, promotions, opportunities. Eric Williams was in office for 8 years. It is he they marched against. And it is he that sent Carl Hudson Phillips to draft the Public Order Act that makes it so difficult for you to protest right now. It's Carl Hudson Phillips under Eric Williams that did that. But look around you. We just had an Olympics. Physically, Trinidadians and Jamaicans are the same. Physically. So why do we underperform at the Olympics? Atto Boland tells this country, he's been saying, I watched Atto take Brianna Williams from pretty much a toddler running on a track to gold glory. And Atto has been saying for a decade or more, we do not treat our sports seriously. Jean Geronimo, who represented, did I say that? Trinidad in about 13 Olympics, not as much as 13. This is what my cousin Carlito Alexander wrote today on Facebook. I screenshot it. B-Mobile is rubbish. Their business model is rubbish. Pay your bill in full, before time, on time, in advance, but you cannot access your minutes. Only way is to pay for additional minutes, although your bill is paid. Have to wait for the cycle to start over, even when you have a corporate account with 20 plus numbers. Even if you pay for the entire year in advance, extortion, B-Mobile, you are disgusting. Now, Carlito Alexander is a very wealthy man. He lives in Fairways. His family is well off, and he doesn't need to complain about B-Mobile minutes. And the reason I say all of that is because every time I read somebody like my cousin Carlito Alexander, who I know, this is not money to him, but it is the principle of the thing. And when I read somebody like him say something like this, I think about the hundreds of thousands of poor people in this country that are being robbed by the telecommunications companies every single day. Every time I go into a place like B-Mobile, I have to stand up for somebody or get involved in something for somebody. This is what Jean Geronimo Samuel, who was a Trinidad cyclist, this is what he said. I know years ago Rowley said sports was just a hobby. We just cycle around having fun. One thing I know is that most of the ministers never achieved a high level in any sport. If they tried, they would not have been successful. Why? Because most of them do not have the discipline and dedication to be honest to the task. Anyone that can accept mismanagement of public funds and turn a blind eye is not mentally strong enough to be a world-rated athlete. Maybe these athletes are the type of people we need as ministers. To the journalists that want to bash these athletes, again, I say many of you could never have achieved much in the field of sports. You all have no idea what it takes to make it to the Olympics. Just being there is an achievement. I am proud of every athlete. They did their best, especially with the lack of proper support from the Prime Minister to the Minister of Sport and the poor management. Remember, anyone who cannot give or demand discipline to their prospective respective tasks can be looked at as failure. Our athletes that represented at the Olympics are mentally stronger than many ministers. Many of you probably just pitched marbles and played hopscotch. Ministers can learn from these athletes. If they put 75% into their leadership roles to be there for the people as they took the oath to do, this lovely Twin Island would not be where we are today. Shame, shame, shame on some of these ministers. If they had an Olympics to train for, they would not even be on the podium in the Caribbean. Proof is in the pudding. Look at where we are. Fair for all. Geronimo. I rode past Geronimo's house. If you want to see what giving your life for Trinidad, how it rewards you, Geronimo and his family lived in a house on Mokarapo Road that pretty much fell apart around them and it's abandoned. I don't even know where Geronimo lives now. But I felt sorry for him, his wife, his children, the conditions that they lived under while this man spent his adult life riding for Trinidad and Tobago. And we only appreciate people when they medal. We have no concept of the journey. We have no concept of the sacrifice and what it takes for somebody like Gene Samuel to have ridden at that level internationally for so long. And we treat them like shit. I told people, somebody posted Eric Williams standing up next to Hazley Crawford during the Olympics, making a stunt for them, and they said, our first gold medal. And I said, yeah. And a couple of years later, they sent bailiffs to drag him out of the house and throw his belongings in the street. If it wasn't for Bastio Pandey, who gave him a house and $500,000, Hazley Crawford, where would he be now? The PNM is a hateful, deceitful, deviant, depraved organization. The problem Trinidad and Tobago has is a PNM problem. Our water courses, I made water. My mother said to me, people said to her, and she said to me, when you explain water management, you make it sound like people could understand it. I walked in riverbeds and filmed them all through this country to show Trinidadians that we've designed a water management system built on, and this is what it is, this is all it is, catch the water in the mountains and throw it in the sea. The Diego Martin River that ends at West Moorings starts up in the back of Diego Martin. And it brings all of that bounty of water. Diego Martin has more rain than any other part of Trinidad and Tobago. And it brings all that bounty of water and throws it into the sea. Maraval River, St. Anne's River, Cascade, all those rivers, all. That's what they do. Throw the water away. And that during rain, because we don't have a water management system, all of the mud flows into the reservoir and we can't have water. And during the drought, we have no water because we don't have enough reservoir capacity for the population. The reservoirs we have was built when the Queen was here for half the population we have now. I have taken people to the Maraval treatment plant and show them that there is space. Some financier is going to come and take that space and build townhouses because just up the road, it was allowed to happen. Townhouses built on the River Reserve. There is a Massey store on the River Reserve called Massey Express in Maraval. All of that was supposed to be for that river. All of it. It's now under a Massey store. But there is a capacity to sink a reservoir in Maraval right there before that water treatment plant. There is a capacity around it that you could hold, treat and distribute from there enough water for the 5 constituencies around it. Water passes through it, overflows it, and goes to the sea. We have a limited capacity of water because we have a limited capacity of thinking. So we are a rainforest country. Trinidad broke off of the landmass that has the Amazon. The 2 biggest rainforests in the world are in South America. And we break off of the Amazon. The reason our water in the west, because the people in the west would kill, because it's the leeward side of the island, there are no waves, so it's pure clear, and they would kill for that water to be aqua blue, like any other tropical island. The reason ours isn't is because we are in the direct path of the Orinoco River. That's the Orinoco flow. That is all the silt that comes down from the Orinoco reaches Trinidad, all up in Diego Martin. We are a rainforest country, and we have drought 6 months of the year. Now you tell me, no matter how diehard you could be, and the UNC, when they came to office, engaged in criminal corruption so obscene that Hafiz Karamat was going to be charged, but he died and he escaped it. The Salcott that desalinates the same water that we threw into the sea, they desalinated back. Carolyn Sipasad Bechan tried to explain to me that that makes sense to her. And that's why I couldn't join with her. Because I know she's not stupid. I know she's not an idiot. So it can't make physical sense to her. So that's another reason it makes sense to her. That can't be what's in your mind. She said to me in an interview and tried to justify it, and I just let it go. We throw the water in the sea, and then we desalinate the water back, and spend $500 million a year to do it. How does that make sense to anybody? How? Wayne Sturge told me, Phillip, 7,000 people of the 20,000 people that do SEA every year, of the 20,000 children that do SEA every year, between 7 and 10,000, over the course of the 5 years that those 20,000 children move forward, almost 50% of them fail or abandon school. And the Ministry of Education knows that. What do you think becomes of those 10,000 children every year? 16, 17, 15, 16, 17, hormones ravaging through your body, sex drive in hyperdrive, you want to attract a mate, but you can't get a job. You're unemployable. Statistically, you are fodder for the criminal machine. So when people say, we have a bandit factory, the bandit factory starts in our failed education system. And nobody, without bordering on racism, that tries to tell me that poor people are stupid, nobody could explain how Fatima College and Mokorapo Secondary could exist 50 feet apart, and one be a prestige school and the other be a failed school, and both of them teaching the same curriculum. Both of them funded by the same Ministry of Education. Both of them have the same Ministry of Education trained teachers. Why is there no oversight in the country that could see the performance disparity between the two and have responsibility to close it? We appoint assholes and jackasses to high office of state. Now that may sound to you as an upsetting thing for you to say, Phillip, but I think of all of those children that go on to lives of crime, that when they're looking at you from behind a gun, when they're breaking into your house, when they're carjacking you on the street, and you don't see your responsibility in the monster that they've become, because don't be an ass, you know. Nobody wants that nobody wants to risk jail and getting killed as a way to earn a living. Nobody. Nobody. Don't fool yourself into thinking that. And I know there is a comfort zone that we retreat to, because if we don't blame them, then the guilt of knowing that we, this tiny society, fails people every year. Now, don't get me wrong, white people and Syrian people fail out of school too. White people and Syrian people, at the end of their term, they have some who get 0 passes. Nothing. They didn't make it. But their parents have the money to send them forward into foreign schools. They come back in a couple years with a degree and a job waiting for them, paying them well. This is not a statement of anything other than saying to Trinidad and Tobago, if we don't find the level where all of us, regardless of our skin color, could have the same chance at life, we ain't going nowhere ever. And all of this talk that we want to talk, because at some point, some of us might say, you know what, this is just not worth it anymore. There's no fixing. You know how many people in Trinidad and Tobago believe that there is no fixing it? That it's already defeated to the point where the people don't care? Nobody cares? That there's not, and again, 128,500 people signed a petition. So I am going to call a public meeting at some point. At some point, it will be legal again to call a public meeting. And I am not stopping what I am doing until I call that meeting. I've said to Felicia, Sean, Satish, because we've met with hundreds of members who want us to launch a political movement, re-energize the PEP, and give the people an option. I said, I'm doing nothing until I could legally call a public meeting and call 100,000 people in the street. Because when I see 100,000, not 10, not 10,000, not 20,000, when I see 100,000 people in the street, when the media cover traffic from DB and San Fernando and Central and Sangre Grande, when the media had to say, we're breaking news right now to tell you, there are 100 and something thousand people, wherever we are, in the savannah, in town, wherever, at a public meeting, peaceful public meeting. Because you see, we are entitled to that by natural right, to have that gathering. 1 million of us supposed to be able to gather if we want. And I will call that meeting. And depending on the turnout and my walk away, if it fails, I tell you, to ask with me, I saying it, you know how to say it. You can use any other word you want. But that will tell me convincingly, 28, 29, 30, how much of a years of this, that much track record, done so much for so many people, and remained in the center, unbowed, unbought, didn't run in. You see, there are openings in those parties for me, always. There are always. You see, there will always be the boom shot. Boy, Phillip in PNM, boy, boom shot. Boy, Phillip in UNC, but it has cachet, it has power, it has value. And there are people in both of those parties that want that bad. But there are people in both of those parties that don't want it at all. Because you see, I cannot be trusted to toe party line. I cannot be trusted to tolerate corruption. I cannot be trusted to look at somebody and say, you in leadership position, so you're entitled to get away with that. I cannot be trusted. Brian Stone, who has tried to get me into the UNC, you know, for a while I had a devil and an angel on my shoulders. For a long time. Dane Wilson from the PNM and Brian Stone from the UNC, and both of them. Dane Wilson have a screenshot saying, I go in Balize house and bring the application form for you now. Brian Stone. But Brian tells me The problem they have, boy Phil, is they feel they can't trust you. And they can't. Ian Griffith, I told you all who Ian Griffith was earlier. He laughed when I said, the only way I doing anything with the UNC is if they hold the grenade and I hold the pin. If you start to go down the corruption road, if you don't start fixing this country, if I work with you to get you in office and you turn on the people, I must be able to take you out of office. If you don't make recall law, no problem. We must be able to bring it down. This ain't no ham, bone, and rice bullshit. And the UNC needs to know. And all these little flappers, like Dave Tanku and the rest. But Dave Tanku is such a turn-off. Because as disgusting as Colm Imbert is as Minister of Finance, the UNC's version is Dave Tanku. And I would rather pack up and walk away and have no impact on the politics in any way if that becomes our choices. Because you see, that's our choices. What it says is this is who we are. We are Colm Imbert and Dave Tanku. And that's unacceptable to me. Because I am not. I am not. I am not Rodney Charles. I am not Barry Padarat. I am not this. And there are people in the UNC that should not be in public life. There are people in the UNC that shouldn't be a hair's breadth away from being in government. Shouldn't be. So I'm saying that to you. As much as I spend over an hour denigrating what the PNM does, make no mistake, they've had less time, but they made sure that they caught up in the corruption. And as many times as I think that before my father leaves this earth, I would have liked him to see me in government, because he supported me. I want to tell you this. When everybody else in my family wanted me to have nothing to do with politics, I don't fit the mold. I don't look like this is what I should be doing. I should be working to make $100 million a year. I shouldn't be fighting and talking about people in Morvan, Beetham, Lavender, Sealots, and Cocorite, and Never Dirty, and Harding Place. I shouldn't be talking about those people because I'm not traditionally a voice for that. And when everybody in my family said, no, Philip, this is just causing us stress because you're putting us in danger, my father was the only one that would say, hey, if this is what he is for, this is what he's for. And I have considered, this heady wine, I have considered falling back into the fold of one of these two organizations that have packs of rabid dogs to defend you. So even when the other side's rabid dogs attack you, you have rabid dogs to defend you. Me, I outside here on my own, taking all the attacks, taking all the pressure, fighting to do what other people, Lincoln Myers, Raoul Pantin, Morgan Job, what their deaths should tell me is a failed mission. iPhone is telling me I'm on low battery. So that means we've been running a long time. I want to tell Trinidad and Tobago tonight. Look at your Ministry of Agriculture, failing grade. Look at your Ministry of Sports, failing grade. Ministry of Tourism, failing grade. Ministry of Housing, failing grade. Ministry of Finance, failing grade. Attorney General, failing grade. Minister of Health, failing grade. Minister of Education, failing grade. Minister of National Security, bloody joke. Name a ministry. Ministry of Social Development, afterthought. There is nothing. There is not one single one of them. They are led by a buffoon. Keith Rowley is a damn fool. Keith Rowley is a blasted fool. And you are supposed to ask him, and the media, if the media wasn't bought out, corrupt, and complicit, if we had real journalists, they wouldn't be tweeting bullshit. They would be asking of the people in office. You see, that's what the journalists are for, to speak truth to power, to get them to answer, not defend them, but the shit that passes as journalism. But real journalists were supposed to ask the Prime Minister, a year has passed, 20% of your term is gone. What have you accomplished? Where in the vision for the development of Trinidad and Tobago are we? Where's the tertiary education plan, targeted jobs, based on industry and direction and vision for the country? Where are those? Service, IT, shipping, marine, downstream, agriculture, whatever. Where are we? What's the vision for the country? Where are we trying to go? Who are we trying to be? And what's been put in place to prepare the technocrats of tomorrow to be able to make that vision a reality? Has any of that been done? Water has been a perennial problem in this country for at least 40 years. What's been done to solve that? What has been done to solve the flooding problem that we've been talking about for 40 years? What's been done about those things in the last 12 months? What's been done to diversify the economy? We've been saying since the 1980s recession, 40 years, that the economy has to diversify away from oil and gas. What are you, the Chamber of Commerce, the Manufacturers Association, the lodge, the backroom boys, what are any of you all saying about moving away from a dependence on oil and gas that has left us behind a long time ago? What happened? What plan? How are we? Where are we going? What are we doing? What is the plan for Trinidad and Tobago? Are we going to continue to suck it and see? Are we going to continue to just go forward every single day, wake up and government on the hoof, policy by VAPs, however you feel? Today is an emergency hospital, tomorrow is not. What is the plan? Mr. Prime Minister, you are in charge. You are supposed to be able to explain to this nation why your workers, your public health workers, your doctors are telling the people that Delta must come. Why does it must come when we have 60 Coast Guard vessels doing jack all in different places, rotting and rusting throughout the country? Why haven't we secured the borders and prevented Delta from coming if it's such a scary thing? Why haven't we secured the borders to kill COVID inside Trinidad and Tobago so we open back up the economy and don't have to vaccinate everybody at all? What was the plan? What is the plan? Where are we going? We don't have a single journalist in this country that could ask those questions. Not one. The central bank has abandoned the people. Banks are raping the public. I mean, they brutally. When you walk in the bank now, you sanitize your hand, you check your temperature, unbuckle your belt, drop your pants, and bend over and take iron without grease. Because that's what happens to the very poor. The rich could afford it because they still might be able to tax break it or some way get around it. But the very poor are getting a salary that going straight into the bank and the bank taxing them. Because their money is in the bank and the bank is breaking off a piece of money that they can't afford to lose. And the central bank and the Ministry of Finance and the Financial Ombudsman, all of them missing in action. And nobody's talking about banking regulation and banking policies and making sure that the cost of doing business in a bank does not cost the depositor, because that's not how the banking license was drafted. It was supposed to be, you use my money for you to make money and you give me a piece of the interest as my deposit interest. That's gone. We're in money warehousing now. Banks charging you what they want, when they want, how they want. You have two choices. I went there to do a bank draft and they say, over a certain value, they'll charge you $100 to type a check. $100 to type a check. If somebody walked in the bank and stuck a gun in the teller's face, we would say that man is obscene. But if the teller sticks a gun in yours, well, that's just business. And it's not. And the country does not have to be this broken. We don't have to be. And there is a citizens union. We are pushing for 100,000 members. If you want, if you believe a word, if you think that there is hope at all, join it. Join it tonight. Go to citizensunion.org, citizensunion.com. If you're a trainee in America, a trainee in Canada, a trainee in England, and you're missing home, and you want all of the first world that you're experiencing where you are, but you want to come back to the memories of your childhood, go and join Citizens Union. No, don't call me on the phone. Don't waste the call. I can't take all the calls I get in. Stop calling to blow smoke up my ass and tell me how much you love me. I appreciate the love. Join the Citizens Union. You know what it's going to take now? It's going to take all of us rowing in the same direction, because Lincoln Myers dead, Raoul Pantin dead, Morgan Job dead. I ain't hearing nobody else talking this talk. Vernon de Lehman has called this the last train from wherever. The last train. We were supposed to done and abandon this after PEP. We were supposed to say, let them burn it down. Let them eat it. Let them take it all. Because that's what they're doing, eh? $500 million highway from a over-budgeted, corrupt Victoria Keys that's so over budget that the population, poor people, paying to subsidize ownership of those townhouses for rich people. That is the insanity. We're robbing the poor to house the rich. And now we're going to build a $500 million highway from that Victoria Keys to Westmall, so they don't have to drive 3 minutes to Mukurapo and turn around. That's the bullshit of a country that can't afford to spend $500 million stupidly right now. We're in debt. We owe more than we have. We have no income. We're broke, and we owing everybody. And I am saying to you, Trinidad and Tobago, when we cross 100,000 members, it will be a horse of a different color, because we will have rights under law. Understand, you have rights under that constitution. The reason we don't get those rights enforced is because we are separate and divided. This slogan, stronger together, means something. It means something. I was riding past King George V Park today, and I thought to myself, if Keith Rowley, I'd say, what to ask with all you? What are you doing, Martinez? You're carpeting it? Carpet it, the man spend the 20 million. What we gonna do? Riot? What were our options? Go to the courts? What were our options? None. Zero. Fight with police to prevent them carpeting King George V Park. Citizens against citizens. The government setting us up to fail. That can't continue. It cannot. On the one hand, don't carpet King George V Park. On the other hand, Western Savannah, your thief have. You're building all kind of building and highway and shit inside the savannah. Instead of giving them same little black children from across the road in Powder Magazine somewhere to go and kick a ball in the evening so we could find the next Dwight York or Russell Atapi or Brian Lara. But that's not on your mind. Thief of money, make a money, there we go. That's not on your mind. If it's on your mind, join the Citizens Union. Listen, a year ago, we took the third largest political party into an election and lost. I am not doing that twice. We have to have a strong and massive organization of people who are willing to break the chains of tribal voting and corruption. And that's what we're working to build right now. So any message you want to send me, instead of sending it to me, send it to somebody else and sign them up to the Citizens Union. Sponsor somebody to tell it it breaks. It's only $350. But that $350 goes a long way in doing many of the things that we do. Not one Citizens Union member during this pandemic that asked for a hamper was turned away. In fact, Satish and Felicia gave people who were friends of members hampers. And that is all because of the work that we do. A better Trinidad and Tobago is possible. It's always been possible. Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago is the opportunity now for us to get together and stand with each other. It's not just politics, it's actual activism that safeguards. We've saved people's houses, we've saved their jobs, we've saved lives. Join the Citizens Union wherever you find yourself in the world. Join the Citizens Union tonight. We need you on board. We need you counted. We need your money. We need your support. If you are wealthy and you're retired and you want to send $100,000 donation tonight, call Felicia Holder 769-4590. Every single dollar helps. We have tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. You don't hear me crying, but we are to find it and pay it every single month. It is difficult. It is walking on our hands and knees up a mountain on broken glass, and we're doing it. And we're calling for you now. This is 1 year in. Look around. None of the rest who was out here begging for your vote a year ago, none of them are wrong. None of them have an idea, none of them have a plan, none of them have a clue. We have all three. We're organizing the country to stand together. Citizens Union of Trinidad and Tobago. Join tonight. Until tomorrow.